Hello, welcome back to the Sunday Serving channel, where you come every week for words of hope and truth from the gospel. You know, over the last few days, we've been having a lot of rain, a big storm coming up the East Coast. Hurricane Elsa did a lot of damage down in Florida, came barreling up the northeast coast, caused massive flooding in New York City. And it's blowing away. The weather's beautiful today. We had quite a bit of rain. And I was reflecting about that teaching from Jesus. The Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Luke has it, where he talks about building on rock foundations. That would be a good passage for today. Here we are in a structure that's built pretty well on the rock foundation. Of course, it's concrete, but I think they dug down to rocks, and it looks like it's ready to withstand a couple hurricanes. So here from Matthew chapter 7, this is in the middle of towards the end of the Sermon on the Mount. It starts out like this: "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.'" Some pretty sharp words, right? But I think the point here is it takes more than words. We can't just have words. We need deeds. We need to do the will of Jesus. We can't just talk about it. You know that old saying, that kind of like a joke, like you say, so-and-so is the expert at golf. You know, he told me so himself. So it's not the talk that matters. It's the doing, the deeds. And that's what Jesus is saying here. We can't just talk about loving. We can't just talk about giving. We can't just talk about following Jesus' example of charity, of mercy, of forgiveness. What's much more important is to do it. And then after that lesson, it goes on about this building on the rock foundation. Jesus goes on, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." Now remember, this is in the middle of a long teaching, the Sermon on the Mount, where there's a lot of very practical instructions, some of them very difficult, about mercy, about forgiveness, about turning the other cheek, about not taking revenge, about marriage, about faithfulness. So Jesus says if we hear these words and we don't put them into practice, we're foolish. But here he says if we put them into practice, we are like a wise man who builds his house on a rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. So that, of course, that's what reminded us of this passage, was the storm we just experienced. And we often experience storms and experience things in real life that should remind us of what's important in life and Jesus' teaching. And here he's using the weather and building as an example, that we need to have a solid foundation to withstand the storms in nature. We need to have a solid foundation of our lives and our hearts and our beliefs in order to withstand all the confusion in the world. "But everyone who hears the words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." And it goes on, "When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one with authority and not as their teachers of the law." So if we think about that some more, the foolish man who built his house on the sand, it didn't last. It crashed when the storms came, when all the trials of life came. It didn't have enough to stand on. And I don't think that foolish man decided ahead of time, listen, I'm gonna go build a house on sand because I just want to take that risk, right? So often we don't think about the important things. We don't think through what's going to matter at the end of the day when I near the end of my life and I look back, what's going to matter? Okay? So often when we do wrong things or we're foolish, it's not because we plan to do bad things. It's because we haven't really thought through. We haven't taken into consideration what really matters. So that's what's important about this teaching is think about what's important in life. What's my foundation? Am I going to base my life on truth? And what could be better truth than the teachings of God, the teachings of Jesus in the Bible? That's the foundation, the rock foundation. It is love. It is forgiveness. It is mercy. But it's following the truths of Jesus, even the hard truths. And then we'll have a rock foundation. So whatever that is, our life, our work, our vocation, our careers, more importantly, even our marriages, our family, our relationships with other people, let's base those on the foundation of rock that God provides, that Jesus provides in the Gospels. So that's the message for today. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to this channel. God bless you. Remy, is your doghouse on a rock foundation? Yeah, that's good.